Welcome to all final year MCOM students to the online class on risk and insurance management. Well, in the today's session, I'll try to focus on what are the important features of insurance contract, features of insurance contract, and I'll also try to focus on the the special contract of insurance involves certain principles. The special contract of insurance involves certain principles. What are those principles? So we'll discuss the principles and essentials, essential features. Okay, I'll share you my PPT. 1 minute. Oh, can you can you see my PPT? Is it visible? Fine. Well, the, as far as features of an insurance contract is concerned, though all contracts share fundamental concepts and basic elements, insurance contracts, typically possess a number of characteristics not widely found in other types of contractual agreements. The most common features are number one is number one is aleatory. If one party to a contract might receive a considerably more in value than he or she gives up under the terms of agreement, the contract is said to be aleatory. The chance, random chance. The insurance contracts are of this type because depending upon the chance or any number of uncertain outcomes, the insured or his or her beneficiaries may receive substantially more in claim proceeds than was paid to the insurance company in the form of premium. Aleatory means a chance, okay, in simple. On the other hand, the insurer could ultimately receive significantly more money than the insured party if a claim is never filed. However, insurance contracts are based on the concept of pooling of risks. While insurance companies may pay claim in some cases, it may not pay claim in many other cases. Now, on an overall basis, if the premiums received are sufficient to cover the remuneration paid to the intermediaries, expenses, management expenses, profit margin, as well as claims, insurance business would be visible, or insurance business must be, insurance business would be viable. How insurance business is viable? Only few members will get a settlements. Only few members will get settlement, and most of the members will, no, they are not going for the settlement. See, in a family, father took a policy and father never told to the family members that he took the policy. So family members are unknown this fact. So that is why they may not claim it also. So ultimately what happened is, on an overall basis, if the premiums received are sufficient to cover the remuneration paid to the intermediaries, expenses, management expenses, profit margins, as well as claims, insurance business would be viable. Okay, because Insurance companies may pay claim in some cases and it may not pay claim in many other cases. Okay, the feature of insurance contract is adhesions. In a contract of adhesion, one party draws up the contract in its draws up the contract and the presents it to the other party on a take it or leave it basis. On a take it or leave it basis. The receiving party does not have the option of negotiating, revising, or deleting any part or provisions of the document. Insurance contracts are of this type, is it not? The most of the rules and regulations already, no, it is inbuilt. Even if we say this is this, can you remove this condition? Definitely, insurance company will never, because while making the policy, they will have the set of rules and regulations. So that is why does not have the option of negotiating, revising, or deleting any part of the provision document. That is why insurance contracts are of this type. So because the insurer writes the contract and the insured either adheres, ADHERS, adheres to it or is denied a coverage. In a court of law, when legal determinations must be made because of the ambiguity in the contract of adhesion, ADHESION, the court will render its interpretation against the party that wrote the contract. Typically, the court will grant any reasonable expectation on the part of the insured or his or her beneficiaries arising from an insurer prepared contract. So in case of insurance, the contract is prepared by the insurer. That is why it's called insurer prepared contract. We the people have no much role. Suppose if you want to know the Jivan Anand policy, I want to buy a Jivan Anand policy. Jivan Anand policy rules and regulations are already framed by the insurance company. So I can't add any point. I can't add any the conditions, or I can't delete any conditions. If you accept all the conditions which are framed by the LIC, then only I can buy. That is why insurer prepared contract. Fine. Then the third one is utmost good faith. Although all contracts ideally should be executed in good faith, no doubt. Insurance contracts are held, held to an even higher standard, requiring the utmost of this quality between the parties. Due to the nature of an insurance agreement, each party needs and is legally entitled to rely upon the representations and the declarations of the other. Each party must have a reasonable expectation that the other party is not attempting to defraud, mislead, or conceal information and is indeed conducting themselves in good faith. In a contract of utmost good faith, each party has a duty to reveal all material facts, material information, that is information that would likely influence a party's decisions to either enter into or decline the contract. And if any such data is not disclosed, the other party will usually have the right to avoid the contract, right to avoid the agreement. So utmost good faith is very, very important aspect, one of the important features of insurance contract. So the next one is executory. An executory contract is one in which one or more parties to the contract remain partially or completely unfulfilled. The insurance contracts necessarily fall under this strict definitions. Of course, it is stated in the insurance and agreement that the insurer will only perform its obligation after certain events take place. In other words, losses occur. Correct? Then unilateral, executory and executed, you have studied. And unilateral, the another one is bilateral, is it not? In case of executory and executed, which you have discussed in the law, business law or commercial law. But insurance contract is an executory one. Similarly, no, bilateral and unilateral, there are two types, but insurance contract is of unilateral one. A contract may either be bilateral or unilateral. In a bilateral contract, each party exchanges a promise for a promise. However, in a unilateral contract, the promise of one party is exchanged for a specific act of the other party. Insurance contracts are unilateral in nature. The insured performs the act of paying the policy premium, and the insurer promises to reimburse the insured for any covered losses that may occur, that may arise in future. It must be noted that once the insured has paid the policy premium, nothing else is required on his or her part. No other promises of performance were made. Only the insurer has the further action, and only the insurer can be held liable for breach of contract. From the policyholder point of view, we need to perform only one obligation, that is paying the premium regularly. That's all. Clear? So next one is conditional. A condition is a provision of a contract which limits the rights provided by the contract. In addition to being executory, elatory, adhesive, and of the utmost good faith, insurance contracts are also a conditional. Even when a loss is suffered, certain condition must be met before the contract can be legally enforced. For example, the insured individual or a beneficiary must satisfy the conditions of submitting the insurance company sufficient proof of loss, or prove that he or she has an insurable interest in the a person insured. There are two basic types of conditions: conditions precedent and conditions subsequent. Conditions precedent, precedent, and another one is conditions subsequent. A condition precedent is any event or act that must take place or be performed before the contractual right will be granted. For instance, for example, before an insured individual can collect a medical benefits, or he or she must become sick or injured, Further, before a beneficiary will be paid a death benefit, the insured must actually become deceased. A condition subsequent is an event or act that serves to cancel contractual right. A suicide clause is an example of such condition. Typical suicide clause cancel the right of payment of the death benefit. ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಿರಬೇಕು, ಸುಸೈಡ್ ಕೇಸ್ ಆದರೆ ಇನ್ಶೂರೆನ್ಸ್ ಸಿಗಲ್ಲ. ಸುಸೈಡ್ ಕೇಸಲ್ಲಿ ಇನ್ಶೂರೆನ್ಸ್ ಸಿಗಲ್ಲ, ಇನ್ಶೂರೆನ್ಸ್ ಕ್ಲೇಮ್ ಸಿಗಲ್ಲ, ಗೊತ್ತಿದೆ ನಿಮಗೆ. ಓಕೆ, ನಾವು ಕಮ್ ಟು ದಿ ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್ ಪಾಯಿಂಟ್, ದ ಪರ್ಸನಲ್ contracts. Insurance contracts are usually personal agreements between the insurance company and the insured individual and are not transferable to another person without the insurer's consent. Life insurance and some maritime insurance policies are notable exceptions to this standard. For example, as an illustration, if the owner of a car sells the vehicle and no provision is made for the buyer to continue the existing car insurance, which is in actuality would simply be the writing of the new policy. So then the coverage will cease with the transfer title to the new owner. ಸೊ ಹಾಗಾಗಿ ಕಾರನ್ನು ನೀವು ಸೇಲ್ ಮಾಡಿದ ತಕ್ಷಣ ಅವನಿಗೆ ಹೇಳಬೇಕು, ನಿಮ್ಮ ಇನ್ಶೂರೆನ್ಸ್ ಕವರೇಜ್ ಟ್ರಾನ್ಸ್ಫರ್ ಆಗಬೇಕಿದ್ರೆ ಅವನು ಇಮಿಡಿಯೇಟು ಆ ಕಾರನ್ನ ಅವನು ಓನರ್ಶಿಪ್ ಅವನು ಟೈಟಲ್ ಕಟ್ ಮಾಡ್ಕೊಳ್ಬೇಕು, ಆವಾಗ ಮಾತ್ರ ಅವನು ಸಿಗ್ತದೆ. ಓಕೆ, ನೆಕ್ಸ್ಟ್, ವಾರಂಟೀಸ್ and representations. A warranty is a statement that is considered guaranteed to be true and once declared becomes an actual part of the contract. Typically, a breach of warranty provides sufficient grounds for the contract to be void. Conversely, the representation is a statement that is believed to be true to the best of the other party's knowledge. This is representations. In order to avoid a contract based on misrepresentation, a party must prove that the information misrepresented is indeed material to the agreement according to the laws of most states, and in most circumstances the responses that a person gives on an insurance application are considered to be representations and not warranties. So whatever the information is provided to the insurance company is only a representation, not a warranty. For example, consider an individual seeking life insurance coverage. He or she would routinely be required to complete an application on which the applicant's sex, age would be requested. We need to provide. The accuracy of this information is necessary for the insurer to correctly ascertain its risk and determine the policy premium. If the applicant gives these responses incorrectly, they would likely be deemed as misrepresentations and could possibly be used by insurance company as grounds for avoiding the policy. There is, however, a difference between the representation or misrepresentations of a fact and the expression of an opinion. There is, however, a difference between the misrepresentation of a fact and the expression of an opinion. Idu bere bere. Take for instance a common insurance application, a question such as, to the best of your knowledge, do you now believe yourself to be in good faith, good health? And applicant answering yes. Feel ಮಾಡುವಾಗ good health, yes. While knowing that he or she suffers from a particular condition, would be guilty of misrepresenting, guilty of misrepresenting an actual fact. However, if the applicant had no symptoms of any kind that would be recognizable to an average person and no doctor's opinion to the contrary, he or she would simply be stating an opinion and not making a misrepresentation. I think from this example is clear what is misrepresentation and what is opinion. So expression of opinion is different and representation is different. Okay. Next, misrepresentation and concealments. A misrepresentation is a statement, whether written or oral, that is false. Generally speaking, in order for an insurance company to void a contract because of a misrepresented information, the information in question must be material to the decisions to extend coverage. Concealment, on the other hand, is the failure to disclose information that one clearly knows about. To void a contract on the grounds of concealment, the insurer typically must prove that the applicant willfully and intentionally concealed the information that was a material nature. Then I'll move on to the next, fraud. Fraud is the intentional attempt to deceive or trick someone in an effort, trick someone in an effort to gain something of value. Although misrepresentations or the concealments may be used to be as fraud by means, or all representations and concealments acts of fraud. For example, if an insurance applicant intentionally lies in order to obtain coverage or make a false claim, it could very well be grounds for the charge of fraud. However, if an applicant misrepresents or if an applicant misrepresents some piece of information with no intent for gain, then definitely no fraud has then no fraud has occurred. For example, failing to disclose a medical treatment that the applicant is personally embarrassed to discuss. So that is why intentionally lies in order to obtain coverage or make false claim, definitely it would treat it as grounds for the charge of fraud. However, if an applicant misrepresents some piece of information with no intent for gain, then definitely no fraud has occurred. Next, impersonation, false pretending. Impersonation, when one person assumes Impersonation is nothing but when one person assumes the identity of another for the purpose of committing a fraud. That person is guilty of other offense of impersonation, also known as a pretending, false pretenses, false pretenses. For example, an individual that would likely be turned down for insurance coverage due to a questionable health might request a friend to stand in for him or her in order to complete a physical examination. Actually, Mr. X is required to undergo the medical checkup. B, sorry, Mr. X is required, correct? X request Y to go for a medical checkup. ನಿಮ್ಗೆ ಗೊತ್ತಲ್ಲ ಎಸ್ ಎಸ್ ಎಲ್ ಸಿ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮಲ್ಲಿ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಹುಡುಗ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಬರೆಯೋ ಬದಲಿಗೆ ಹೇಳುವನು ದಡ್ಡ ಇರ್ತಾನೆ, ಬಿ ಹೇಳುವನು ಇಂಟೆಲಿಜೆಂಟ್ ಇರ್ತಾನೆ. ಆ ಬಿ ಅನ್ನ ಎಯ ಹಾಲ್ ಟಿಕೆಟ್ ತಗೊಂಡೋಗಿ ಎಕ್ಸಾಮ್ ಬರೆಯುವುದು. ದಟ್ ಈಸ್ ಕಾಲ್ಡ್ ಇಂಪರ್ಸೋನೇಷನ್, false pretenses. Fine. Next, I'll move on to the next one. Parole or oral evidence rule. This principle limits the effects that oral statements made before a contract's execution can have on the contract. The assumptions here is that any oral agreements made before the contract was written were automatically incorporated into the drafting of the contract. Once the contract is executed, any prior oral statement will therefore not be allowed in a court of law to alter or counter the contract. Well, now I'll come to the last aspect of today's session, today's class, that is principles of special contract of insurance. Quickly, I'll explain because I think you already discussed all these points in the first unit. The special contract of insurance involves the following principles. Insurance, my dear students, you know that insurance is a contract between the insurer and insured. It needs to follow some certain basic principles, no doubt. Every business has their own values and assumptions which play important role in related to business or relating to business. To run the insurance business effectively, it has its own values, assumptions, and guidelines. Such values, assumptions, and guidelines are known as principles. Okay, now come to the first principle, is the principle of nature of contract. The nature of contract is a fundamental principle of an insurance contract. An insurance contract comes into existence when one party makes a proposal of a contract and the other party accepts the proposal. A contract should be simple to be valid contract. The person who is entering into a contract should enter with his free consent, FREE, free consent, without any force. Then principle of utmost good faith, the second principle. An insurance contract is based on the principle of utmost good faith. Under this insurance contract, both the parties should have faith over each other. They must behave or act in utmost good faith. As a client, it is the duty of the insured person to disclose all the facts to the insurance company. Any fraud or misrepresentation of facts can result in a cancellation of the contract. Now come to the number 3, principle of insurable interest. Under this principle of insurance, the insured must have an interest in the subject matter of the insurance. Interest in the subject matter of the insurance. In the absence of insurable interest, no one can get a property insured and can claim the compensation of loss from the insurance company by destroying the property. So, insurable interest very very important for insurance contract. Then principle of indemnity. The principle of indemnity states that the insurer agrees to pay no more than the actual amount of loss. Indemnity is the security or compensation against loss or damages. The principle of indemnity is such principle of insurance stating that an insured may not be compensated by the insurance company in an amount exceeding the insured economic loss. Then come to the principle of mitigation. Mitigation ಗೊತ್ತಲ್ಲ ಮೀನಿಂಗು ಕಡಿಮೆ ಮಾಡೋದು. Try to reduce, mitigate, ಕಡಿಮೆ ಮಾಡುವಂತ. According to this principle, insured should try to minimize the loss as far as possible when the incident takes place. It is a duty of the insurer to make every effort and to take all possible steps to minimize the loss in the event of the accident. Now, double insurance. Double insurance denotes the insurance of same subject matter with two different companies. Same subject matter with two different companies. It is the same company under two different policies. Insurance is possible in case of indemnity contracts like fire, marine, and property insurance. A double insurance policy is adopted where the financial position of the insurer is doubtful. Here, the insured cannot recover more than the actual loss and cannot claim the whole amount from both the insurers. Next principle is principle of proximate cause. The proximate cause literally means the nearest cause or direct cause. Proximate cause literally means the nearest or direct cause. This principle is applicable when the loss is the result of two or more causes. The proximate cause means the most dominant and the most effective cause of loss. This principle is applicable when there are series of causes of damage or loss. Then the last but one is the principle of subrogation. Last but one, principle of subrogation. Subrogation means substitute. This principle of subrogation strongly supports the principle of indemnity. Subrogation means substitution of the insurer in the place of the insured for the purpose of claiming from the third person for a loss covered by insurance. For example, in the case of an auto accident, in the case of an auto accident, subrogation stops an insured from collecting the payment from the two insurance companies for the same loss. Places responsibility for the accident on the third party and gives an insurance company the legal right to demand recovery. I'll repeat. In the case of auto accident, subrogation stops an insured from collecting the payment from the two insurance companies for the same loss, places responsibility for the accident on the third party and gives an insurance company the legal right to demand recovery. The last one is principle of a contribution. The principal contribution allows insurance companies to share the cost of claims and prevents an insured from collecting in full on more than one policy. The main purpose of this principle is to compensate only the actual loss in a proportionate way by the insurers. If one insurer pays the claim in full, the insurer can then recover a percentage of the payment from the other insurers. So with this, I have completed principles which are involved in the special contract of insurance, and I have covered the features, important features of an insurance contract. Probably next class I'll go for the insurance ombudsman. So in the next class I'll take insurance ombudsman. So till then, have a nice time. Thank you.